are a little more than a year away now from the next presidential election, which means you'll probably hear more debate on if the Electoral College should stay or go. Well, sort of. Is it possible to have the best of both? One lawmaker thinks so, and she's here now. We're talking about State Representative Carrie Reinigans. We thank you for joining us. And also Michigan Capitol Confidential Managing Editor James David Dickson. Good to see you as well. And our anchor attorney Charlie Langton with us as well. All right, so in a nutshell, this bill that Representative is proposing would say, look, Michigan would automatically cast the presidential electoral votes for the winner of the national popular vote. If this was the case in 2016, Hillary Clinton would have been the president of the United States if your bill was to pass all across the country. You think that would be fair?
Well, I do think it's fair to have the person who gets the most votes win the presidential election. So thanks for that question. And what we know is that the founding principle of democracy here in the United States is that one person has one vote. And we want to make sure that every voter in every state in every election is campaigned to in every presidential year. The president has to win the most votes in their district, which is the entire country. I had to do the same thing, win the most votes in my district. So I think the president should have to do that too. And it's not just me that says it. We have a large coalition, about 24 organizations, prominent Republicans like Saul Newsis, who are touting this across the state and across the country. I think it's time for Michigan to join the national
James
popular
David
vote.
Dickson, you know, this whole electoral system was started, of course, back when our founding fathers said, look, we have a choice. Should Congress be able to elect the next president, or should the people be able to? They came up with a compromise, and the electoral system is in place. Many people say this system just is outdated and doesn't serve the people, each individual voter who's out there. You agree?
Well, the genius of the American system is we're always able to change it. They just don't make it easy. So if you want to move to a system of direct election of the president, which this is, go the same way it took to make direct election of senators happen, a constitutional amendment. National popular vote is an end run around the constitutional amendment process. And it would try to correct one ill by creating another. So no one loves it when the Electoral College winner is the popular vote loser. You would really hate it if the person who got Michigan's electoral votes didn't even win Michigan.
But the whole point is it's up to the states. This has nothing to do necessarily with just the Constitution. It's up to the state. Each state gets to decide what their state voted on. What's wrong with making it, as Representative Reinigans will say, more accurate so that each person's vote counts? Because right now, that's not the case, is it?
Well, it's not more accurate because, I mean, under House Bill 4156, Kerry's bill, you could lose Michigan 7 million votes to 0 and still win Michigan's electoral votes.
But you mean
not some of them.
But you mean to tell me that under this bill, though, wouldn't each voter's vote mean more than it currently does?
Yes.
No, not than currently.
How?
Let's do simple math. I know Carrie's a lot better at at math than I am, but let's do the math. Does your vote weigh more as 1 out of 7 million, which it is now, as just the Michigan electorate is what counts, or 1 out of 150 million?
So
that's literally the choice that's put in front of us.
Never in Michigan's history has every single voter voted one way in a presidential election. And that's how I think it should be. I think every presidential candidate should campaign to every voter in every election in every state every time. So, of course, the person who gets the most votes should win, and it's based on what your district is.
But Representative, what about the fact that you have New York and California that have obviously the most population? At the end of the day, without the electoral system, wouldn't we essentially be letting New York and California decide our election?
No, we would not. How many people live in New York and California? Barely even 20% of our country lives there. You can't win the national popular vote if you only win 20%.
Well, why are candidates?
And you should know that there are more Republicans registered in California than there are people who even live in half of the plain states.
Why are candidates concentrating so heavily on those states and not paying attention to rural areas in America? Shouldn't those voters have a voice as well?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think every voter in every state in every election should have a say in who the president is. And right now, so many states are flown over, ignored, taken for granted.
James, you agree with that?
National popular vote would actually add Michigan to that list. There are only just a few battleground states, and we are one, and we no longer would be one. So why any person from Michigan would willingly give away that power?
Absolutely.
We're not a battleground state in every election.
Just for the idea that possibly we could select another Democrat or two. It's just short-sighted, and
So do you think-
Charlie Langton, I'll bring you into the fold
It could
here.
easily work out the other way.
You're
So
the
the
attorney
person
here.
who doesn't get the most votes should win.
You're
Is
the
that-
attorney here,
Could
Charlie.
win.
The Constitution of the
that's
United
how it is
States.
now. The
would you-
loser wins
Do you
now.
think that this ultimately could be something that could work?
Well,
Carrie's bill.
she wants to, James makes a point about it's an end around the Constitution without going through the constitutional amendment process. So I want to know exactly how it works. But besides all that, let's take out the legalities as to whether or not this is challengeable and legal. The problem is you are given a lot of power to about 10 states, I think it is, and that's it. I agree with your point. But what about a third-party candidate? All you'd have to do is put a third-party candidate in there, and then what's going to happen? A third-party
The
candidate
person of
could
the
actually
three
campaign
who gets
in a
the most
couple of
votes
markets
would
and
win.
really skew the vote.
If
And
there
that,
are three
how fair is
candidates
that?
and you look at how many votes each one of them gets, the person with the most would win. Isn't that what our country's founded on? So if you have 17 candidates, the one with the most votes would win.
James, do you think that the people who are watching this right now at home, Republican or Democrat, depending on the outcome of an election, really trust the electoral system and think that it serves them?
Roop, I think they're watching this and they're shocked. They don't know what we're talking about. No one's ever told them what House Bill 4156
Well, no, I
does.
think we made it pretty clear that
I'm
it would.
talking about outside of this. I mean, even on the Fox News or Fox 2 website, very few mentions on the House and Senate
but
floor in
please answer
Michigan.
the question. Do you think the electoral system serves the state of Michigan and the voters who live here well?
Yes.
You do. You think
I
it's
do.
fair and accurate?
I do, and I think that again, if you might not have loved how 2016 turned out, but if the person who lost Michigan had won, that would be a first nationwide. There's 48 states that do winner take all. Michigan's one of them.
So let's do this. I don't know how much time we have. Let me understand the bill. In Michigan, let's assume, and let's say Biden won by 60%, Trump won by 40%. We have 15 electoral votes. You're not changing the system. The electoral votes, the 15 votes remain the same. Tell me what happens in Michigan.
So I would like us to use the power that the United States Constitution gives to state legislatures to decide how to award our state's electoral college votes. And I would like our state to award our electoral college votes based on who wins the national popular vote.
I just gave you the numbers.
So
60
our
for Biden, 40 for Trump.
So our 15 electoral college votes would go to Biden because he wins the national popular vote under your hypothetical situation.
So
The asterisk in that example is that it wouldn't matter how the people of Michigan voted.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter how the people of Michigan
How does
vote.
it matter how the people of Michigan voted in that situation?
Because the votes for Biden and the votes for Trump would be added together with all of the votes for Biden and Trump across
Again,
the
you're
whole
no
country.
longer one of 7 million, you're one of 150 million.
The person who gets
the winner of
the
the
most votes
presidency
should be
will
winning
win every
here.
single electoral vote, right?
No, not every single electoral.
I totally don't
Well,
get
Charlie,
that.
not every state would be in the compact. So when
Yes.
We have a compact. So it only
yeah.
applies to some states, not all
that's
the
exactly
states.
so when there's enough states that equal 270 electoral votes, the compact
How
would
is
go
that
live.
fair? So some states elect the president one way and another a different way?
And that's why I've written
That's
before
the
that this
end
is
around the
national
Representative
divorce.
Reitigan, do you think
It is
that that's fair?
I do think that's fair
do you think
because
that's gonna
I
hold
had to
water?
win the most popular votes in my district.
But that's a
And I
local
think that the
election, which is
president-
different than a national election, don't you
the-
think?
Every single elected position in our country, thousands of them, the person who wins the most popular votes wins that seat. But one, the presidency.
But you
Why
notice
is
that
that
you notice
fair?
how
Because it's in the
popular votes in
Constitution,
How
there?
is
right?
that fair?
But
How is
just-
that
just
fair?
do it,
Can you
because
explain
everyone
why you
should-
want the person who
Wait a
gets the
minute.
second most votes wins? I don't get that.
That's the constitutional system we've
That's
all
the way
known.
No.
So why did you just go
And
through
if
the
you
constitutional
wanted-
system?
then
So
change
I,
it.
I never get a
Just
good
go the
answer.
wrong way.
Representative,
Is
you
there
keep
a good
saying
answer about the person who loses winning the
but you keep saying
election? I don't get that.
why is it that local races are decided one way and this race is decided another way?
So I guess
No,
what we
hold on,
should
hold
do
on.
is
Just that
a
it doesn't matter what the
cockamamie
US
scheme.
Constitution.
So look at my district. I have 5 townships in Washtenaw County, 5 townships in Jackson County. Let's make the popular vote of each of those townships have 1 vote in who gets to win my district. That's a cockamamie
Representative,
scheme.
I
don't think that's
I
how we should
understand
be
what you're
electing
saying.
So you're
people.
just throwing out babies with bathwater.
Hold on, James. One second. What I'm saying is, you keep asking the question: if this was a local race, it's decided like this. The most number of votes gets the
That's the
pie.
principle of our country.
Of local elections, but the principle of the country,
vote.
of the Constitution, is that an electoral system is in place. And Charlie's point was, wouldn't you have to do something to change the Constitution to make this
Nope,
work?
because we are using the power of the Constitution to award our electoral college votes, as the Constitution allows us to do. As state legislatures, we can decide how to do that. And so we're deciding to use the power of the U.S. Constitution.
How many people in this pack that you have are Democrats?
Oh, God, I don't know.
And how many Republicans?
There are 16 states plus D.C. who
Are they all Democrats?
Nope.
They're not.
This has been passed with Republican majorities in, I believe, Arizona. And the last time it passed off the House floor in Michigan was 2018. And I don't think the Democrats were in charge then.
James, when you hear the shoes on the other foot, depending on how Republicans are doing or how Democrats are doing, it seems like this is a convenient way to say, hey, this works for my party, my candidate now. Wouldn't you say that's kind of politically convenient to do it one way or the other, depending on who's in office?
As Kerry mentioned, in the past, Republicans have supported this.
Yeah.
That's actually more of a principled stand when, because the two incidents that have created national popular vote, 2000 election, Republican wins. 2016, Republican wins.
By losing
and you've still had,
the popular
but
vote.
you still had Republicans going ahead and say, let's go ahead and support national popular vote. I don't get why they would do it, which makes it principled.
What's your guess about what's going to happen?
I get why Democrats would do it.
What's your guess about what's going to happen when this hits the House floor after it leaves committee?
I mean, Democrats can do whatever they want. They hold all the gavels, right?
And so then Michigan,
but here's the problem that exists beyond Lansing and beyond
that the loser could win.
Beyond even this whole system. The real problem you're going to run into, two problems. Congress, they're going to want to review this. This is an interstate compact. And they say, oh, Congress doesn't have to review every interstate compact. If you think they're going to let a group of blue states steal the presidency, they're not.
We're going to give you a chance to answer what he just said on the other side of the break when we come back.
The way we elect the President of the United States by the Electoral College. Some people now want to change it and elect the President by popular vote. Good idea?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's a fraud. It's a scam.
I think people of America are smart enough to read and understand what their candidates are saying and to have one man, one vote.
It's a popular vote ban.
Because it makes it so that the larger proportions will just like get so much, and it's like Texas already gets a lot, and then it's like, oh wow, they're getting like a lot, and then like California gets a lot, and then Rhode Island gets nothing. So
keep the same Electoral College the way it is now.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So many things that influence the electoral vote that I think the Founding Fathers couldn't have seen coming.
Little states would have very little say in who is the president.
I think the president is of the United States, not of the individual states. So I think it would give the people of the United States more power as opposed to just individual states.
I don't believe in it.
But that's the way we've been doing it for years and years.
And look where we are now.
All right, final thoughts. Representative Ryan, again, 16 states have adopted this so far. Michigan could be next. What's the viability? You think it's a go?
Yes, I do think it's a go. This has a long history of bipartisanship, and I'm confident in working toward getting bipartisan votes when we get a floor vote in the near future. I really think it's important that we use the founding principle of our democracy, that every person in every state gets campaigned to in every election, and the person who gets the most votes should win.
And that's the bottom line about the legislation. How viable is this in your mind, James?
It's a bad bill, but Kerry's a good person. And so what I would like our viewers to do is to do what we did today. Talk.
Do your homework.
To each other.
Have a table, a discussion around your dining room table with friends and others, and it's glad we started that conversation right here in earnest. Good to see you, Representative Ryan. James, always good to see you. And that does it for this edition of Let It Rip.